Hello everybody, you're welcome back to Life Skills Technologies. Now we are in this course titled Machine Design with Autodesk Inventor. That's the title of this course. Now the current topic we are looking at is creating sketches and parts. Before I continue, I want to remind you of what we did in the last class. In the last class, I tried to show you the Autodesk Inventor work environment. I tried to familiarize you with the basic features of the software. And at the end, towards the end of the class, I gave a demonstration of a machine that has already been drawn with Autodesk Inventor. We're able to look at the four major components of a typical Inventor drawing or Inventor project. So I talk about the parts, I talk about assemblies and sub-assemblies, talk about drawing file, I talk about presentation file. Those are the four things we work with majorly in Inventor. Now in this current topic, I want to start with parts. But like I said in the previous class, that sketch and parts are inseparable. You create a part from a sketch. And ideally, if you want to fabricate a machine, there is what we call conceptual sketch or conceptual drawing. You have to conceptualize the machine, think about how the machine will look like. You may not be good at drawing, even the originator of the machine may not be good in drawing, but he has to put up a sketch. He has to sketch it on paper so that the designer or the engineer or the draftsman that want to design the machine will take up the sketch and use it to develop a detailed drawing. Now in Inventor, we start with sketch, rough sketch. We fine-tune our sketch. Then after that, we develop the sketch into a part by using different features in Autodesk Inventor. Now before we continue, let me talk about 2D and 3D sketches. As you have already heard from me, parts are usually created from sketches. When you create a sketch, your sketch will be consumed by the parts. That is, you will need sketch to create a part. In Inventor, we normally create closed sketch, a closed entity, because if it is not closed, it may be difficult to extrude or to revolve or to sweep or to work on that sketch to develop it into a part. I'm going to talk more about that shortly. So, but know that before you can create any machine part, you must know how to work with sketch. And in Inventor, there are two types of sketches. The first one is two-dimensional sketch, 2D sketch, or three-dimensional sketch. The idea of 2D and 3D, I believe that is not new to you listening to me. And in our primary school or secondary school, they told us that a rectangle is a two-dimensional object because it has only length and breadth. They told us that a triangle is two-dimensional object because it has height and base. So any flat object or a flat plane is a 2D object. So in Inventor, you can create a two-dimensional sketch which you can transform into a 3D solid. At the same time, you can create a 3D sketch. 3D sketch doesn't mean that it's a solid. The idea in this case is the 3D sketch is not limited to a sketch plane, but 2D sketch is limited to a plane. You have to draw it on a plane. If you understand what I mean by plane, I think we get the spelling wrong here. This is the correct spelling, right? A plane, P-L-A-N-E. Now, if you don't understand what I mean by plane, imagine a plane to be a flat surface upon which you are going to draw your sketch. So I'm going to talk about plane shortly. Now, this 2D and 3D, when we say 2D drawing, like I said, a rectangle is a 2D drawing, but a cuboid or a cube is a 3D object because it is a solid. But 3D sketch, it has a meaning that it's not limited to a sketch plane, and you can draw it at any point in space. So I don't want to get confused that a 3D sketch doesn't mean 3D solid. It means that your sketch is not limited to a plane. So that is the meaning. I think practically speaking, when we launch Inventor now, you understand what we mean by 2D and 3D sketch. Now let's talk more about sketch and dimension constraint. There is no way we work with sketch and we will not talk about constraint. Well, constraint can be, in a layman term, is something that limits something. That is, it is a kind of limit on what you are doing. Now, in Inventor, your drawing, your sketch, they are controlled by two basic parameter types. So we are going to work with dimension constraint and sketch constraint. The beauty of Inventor is that it is parametric. When you change dimension, the length of your drawing will change. In AutoCAD, it will not be easy like that. When you make a mistake in AutoCAD, at times you may have to redraw everything. But in Inventor, you don't need that. All you need is to change dimension. So we have dimension constraint. Then we have sketch constraint. If two lines are not perpendicular, there is a tool that can align them perpendicularly automatically. If two lines are not coincident or they are not tangential to each other, in Inventor, we have sketch constraint that can make them to behave the way you want them to behave. So, in sketching in Inventor, we are going to be working with dimension constraint and sketch constraint. Now, generally in Inventor, you start with a rough sketch using basic geometry. Then, you add constraint. Then, you now fully define your sketch with dimension. So, another thing I want you to note that Inventor is dimension driven. It is dimension driven. Once you know the dimension, the length will be changing as you enter the dimension. You don't need to redraw anything. All you need to do is to change dimension. Now, I don't know if you are following me or you are getting what I'm saying. This is not a theory class, it's not philosophy, it's not art. It's a skill, it's a practical skill. So all these things I'm saying, we are going to lay our hands on something meaningful very soon. Now, before I go into the practical session, the dimension dictates length, size, angle of the sketch geometry. And for the dimension to do this predictably, sketch must know how to interact with one another. So this interaction is defined by sketch constraint. Now I want to get out of this presentation, launch the Autodesk Inventor software. This is our Autodesk Inventor Professional 2017. I've already explained all the things you're looking at here. You can create a new part right here. You can create a new assembly, a new drawing, a new presentation. These are the projects I'll be working on. I told you that in Inventor we work with projects. You name your machine, the name of your machine will be the name of your project. And immediately you create a project, a folder will be created in your documents, in your system document folder. And that folder will bear the name of the machine that you are working on. Now before we continue, let's create a project first. Now let me click on projects. Okay. I've already explained this. Please, if you have not watched my previous video, I would like you to do so in order to have a thorough understanding of what is going on here. Now here, these are the list of the machines I'll be working on, and the one that is checked or that is marked is the current machine. I want to create a new project. I'm not going to work on rock lapping machine, so I'm going to create a new project. Here, I just click next. new single user, then you click here and change the name. Now I want to call it a sketch and parts. So let's call it sketch and parts. Let's click next and click finish. That's all. Say okay here. Alright. Now you agree with me that it's already marked. So the software has made my sketch and parts the current project. So click on done. So that means whatever you draw now is in that folder called sketch and parts. So I'm going to create a new part by clicking on this new button. So you have this, or you click on parts right here. When you click on part right here, so it's a quicker way of creating a part for your project. But I don't know, it depends on your level of proficiency. I wouldn't recommend that. I would like you to go to new, and from there you select what you want to do. But okay, the system is a kind of slow. Okay, is it loading? Not yet. The part is now loaded, but I have a problem here. Before I mention the problem, you can see that under model browser, the name of the part is called part 1. It is when you save it that it will be given appropriate name. If you look at the title bar on top here, it's also called part 1. Look at the mouse. Just follow my mouse. It's called part 1 here. So when you even in the tab, in the starter tab here, it's called part 1. It's called part 1. So it is until you give it a name that the name will be changed to appropriate name. Now the problem I mentioned is that I wouldn't know whether I'm working with a metric unit or inches, because if you create a new part by that method, the Inventor will load default unit for you. But let's close this. Let's close this and go back to our home page. You see that this X button here is what I used to close it. And the X button on top will close the whole program, but the one below here will close the current file that is open. Now, we click on this part and it took us to that part file. But I want to click on new. Now, I prefer that method. Click on new, click on metric. So that will allow you to choose the unit. If you choose English Imperial unit, you'll be working with inches. But when you choose metric, you'll be working with a metric unit. So under part, create 2D and 3D objects, we are not working with sheet metal. We are going to work with standard parts in millimeter. So let's click on this. After clicking on it, then on the right hand side there, it says standard part, display name is part, units, millimeter, material, generic. This template creates a 2D or 3D object composed of features and one or more bodies. So you click on create, or you double click it right here, or you click create here. So it's going to do the same thing, but it's better and faster. It's going to do the same thing that was done when we click on this new part on the home page. You can close this home page if you don't want to see it. So let's close it right there. Alright, so what we are left with is our part, and it's called part 2 because it has created part 1 which I ignored. So if I open now, there is nothing here in my sketch and part project. Don't forget that the name of the project is sketch and parts. So that's the name we gave it. So